All right, everyone. This is the Carsonnetz interview. I'm gonna have all his stuff on the screen, so please go check him out. Thank you for coming on again. It's awesome every time to get an interview with someone. The goal of this is kind of to have people to be able to relate to some of their Catholic content creators that they enjoy. So I think it's a good thing, and I think it's cool that to do interviews with them, and especially with the fact that we have a bunch of like new age content creators coming in, especially on TikTok. So I thought, hey, let's do some interviews with some of them. So
Sure.
thank you again for coming on. So tell everyone about yourself, who you are, what you do, and what are your like goals or like goal with your channel or goals in life, whatever, you want to talk about.
Sure. So I'm Carson, and it's interesting because it's like a joke. My last name is Gnetz, by the way. It's Gnetz, but I put it as Nets like a long time ago because that's the joke, right? Like the GN sound. It's as Polacks. I'm Polish, half well, partly Polish. The Polacks, we pronounce the G when you say it. Very long story. My last name was changed when they came over here. My ancestors. That's how a lot of the things went because at Ellis Island and coming in through Canada, they were like, "What's your name? What? Gnetz. Here you go. Welcome in." And then I myself, I'm a revert. I reverted January. Well, technically it'd be January 29th, but my first mass, like actually coming back, like being present, was February 1st of this year. Was confirmed because I was already baptized as a baby. Was confirmed on the vigil of this year, an Easter vigil. So it's a very quick process. A lot quicker than most. I know a lot of people, they have to like wait until fall. But ultimately I was blessed that I didn't have to, wait. Thankfully the pastor there, we had a conversation. He was like, dude, like having a conversation with you, like there's no reason why you should have to wait to receive the sacraments. And then what I do right now, a lot of my time is spent with social media and like studying and growing in the knowledge of the faith. This is a lifelong thing anyways, so, but always more time that you can devote to this. I looked at St. Thomas and see how many books he wrote in his 8 years before his death. And I was like, I'm lazy. And then my goals, man, ultimately to spread the Catholic faith. I think it's to spread the gospel, dude, which is in a nutshell, charity, right? To love God for his own sake and to love others for God's sake. So
That's awesome. That's great. I'm a convert and revert at the same time. So
okay.
I grew up with a Catholic mom, but she had kind of fallen away from the faith, and then a Jehovah's Witness dad. So I didn't get baptized as a baby.
That's a combo, dude.
Yeah,
that's
nuts. So I didn't get baptized as a baby. I think they were both had kind of fallen away whenever I was born.
Sure.
And then once I got older, my mom like, hey, you want to get baptized? And then I was like, of course.
How old?
We had started going. I was in 8th grade. So I was about 13, 14 years old.
Okay.
And now I'm 17, going to be 18 soon. So it was crazy. And then I fell away and then reverted, and it's just been great. I've been so happy, honestly. And it's crazy. With you being a credo Catholic, like, what was like your view of Catholicism when you were younger, before your reversion?
I think to call myself a cradle Catholic is kind of it's disrespectful to real cradle Catholics, because I wasn't really. I was, but like my family, when I was about like 6. No, dude, no, it's in the mind, bro.
It's everything. It's everything.
It's the TikTok brain.
Yeah.
No, dude. Yeah. So around that age, we kind of stopped going to mass, for some personal reasons with my family, and with what my mom was going through with some stuff with trying to get married and this kind of stuff, and basically for not really a good reason, we stopped going. Part of it had to do with my mom was like, he plays baseball. We have tournaments on the weekends. Here's an excuse of why we don't go, right? So I wasn't really a cradle Catholic, but I had Catholic family around me. Like my uncle, my godfather, he was always devoutly Catholic, you know, and we would go over to his house and you'd see, you know, you walk in, you're like, am I at church? You know, you're like, I got religious, you know, artwork everywhere. So, but growing up, I didn't really have like a big thought about like Catholicism. I would just call myself Catholic. I'm like, yeah, I'm Catholic. I mean, that's what my mom says, and I don't want to go against her. Like I remember specifically one time, my dad, because my parents got divorced when I was 3. I grew up in like a split household my entire life, which was normal for me, you know. But my dad, we went to Minnesota to go and see like some of his wife's family, and they were like, we're going to a Lutheran church, right? And my mom was like, what? and my mom wasn't even like a very devout Catholic at the time. She just like knew, right? She knew. She was like, not good, you know? But yeah, and then later on in life, kind of started to distance myself away from the Catholic Church, and just kind of thought like, oh, this is like outdated and old, you know? So, but growing up, I thought, you know, Catholicism, that's just Christianity, you know? But my family was more like, hey, believe in God in general, and that's good enough. And be a good person, which, what is a good person, right? You know, and then you get into those epistemic questions. But yeah.
I had a conversation with my priest actually yesterday, and I was kind of talking about, I feel like there's 2 kinds of people that are not practicing their faith, and one of them is like the person who doesn't believe in God. Sure. And then the other is like someone I would say, like, consider myself, maybe you can relate to this. I never had a problem believing in God. I just didn't care.
Right.
It just wasn't important to me for whatever reason. I don't know why, but
I think it's because we don't really understand what believing in God means.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of that's the thing.
Yeah. And I think being Catholic too, I had before me really practicing being Catholic, I had a very like main character syndrome. I only cared about myself. So
fair.
And Catholicism, you know, it humbles me all the time.
Of course.
So,
totally.
What was like for you your first encounter with God that made you think like, wow, God is really real. Like he needs to be like the center of my life.
You know, I think that it's interesting that one of the things that comes to mind, I don't remember what age I was. Oh man, I must have been maybe in my I can't remember if it was like late teens or if it was like my mid teens. But I remember, so at my mom's parish that we would where I first experienced what church was, right? Mm-hmm. At a Catholic church. I remember the crucifix that they have, the really big one, you know, the crucifix that they have. I remember walking down the aisle to just receive a blessing because I haven't been, you know, I wasn't confirmed yet. To receive a blessing. I remember like looking up at the crucifix and being like, getting this like weird, like not weird, like bad feeling, right? But like good feeling, you know what I mean? And that was like an interesting encounter with God. But I think one of the things that really brought me back into Christianity was a really profound experience. Not profound. I wouldn't say profound, but definitely unmistakable at a non-denom gathering, which is interesting, right? Because God can use anything to really get his people back to him. And I think a lot of these non-denominational churches, are not churches, but non-denom communions, you know, they're almost like stepping stone. I mean, like, I feel like they're almost these like breeding grounds for like people to really like go to the meat and potatoes, you know. They're at the milk, they're at the cotton candy. They need some spiritual sustenance. And I feel like that's kind of like God used that in the sense where like I went there and I was like, it felt like that like longing for like purpose and meaning in life that transcended just created things, you know? And that was like a callback to like earlier on when I was in church and Catholic church. But then ultimately, you know, when you grow in that and you realize, well, this is not the end of the story here. Like this isn't the fullness of what Christianity is. But yeah, so I guess that's how I'd answer that.
Yeah, like what specifically drew you to that like non-denominational space at first?
Right. I think it's a good question. Well, I think that it was not only like popular. This was 2022, so not only was it just kind of popular, you know, but one of the guys I met on the baseball team at Chandler Gilbert Community College, met him, and he was a pretty he grew up non-denom, you know, and I was like, this is the cool like new hip thing. And Catholicism, right, for someone who doesn't know what Christianity is all about, right, and doesn't really understand the historical scope of Christianity, you walk into a Catholic church and it seems like foreign, outdated, ritualistic, like, I don't know, like this has been going on for too long and it needs to be updated.
It seems like, yeah, what's warned against.
Which is funny because even the stuff that people experience where they're like, this needs to be updated is like the extremely updated version.
Yeah.
We get into like Novus Ordo, you know what I mean? And like very hyper charismatic, you know, sometimes stuff. But no, and I gravitated towards that mainly just out of an ignorance, you know, for what Christianity is, and probably just came across a lot of people that sounded convincing, you know, from the evangelical side, you know, and ultimately a part of it too is just like once I had chosen my lane, I was like, okay, now I have to like, you know, because I had this, you know, kind of experience where I got you know, the little warm and fuzzies, you know, I was like, I got to prove this now. And like, this is true, you know, and kind of an act of like rebellion to like my parents and my family, you know? And so, yeah, I think that like anything, like kind of like my, St. Augustine, he ultimately like was attracted to the Manichaeans, not because they were necessarily like correct, because they weren't, but just because they sounded convincing, you know, they sounded smart, and that attracts people, you know, not necessarily saying the evangelicals sound the smartest, but they definitely come off the a lot of times like the most endearing and like kind and like just appealing to pathos, you know. That's one of the things about persuasion is like if you can appeal to someone's emotions, we're a lot more emotional creatures than we want to admit. Even like guys, like us dudes, we want to pretend, you know, that we're like logical, and we're like, no, we would never make emotionally driven decisions. Everything has to be logical. It's like, not really, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
That's crazy because like your story about how you got into evangelicalism is like pretty much the same as mine. Like my buddy who's on the baseball team invited me. I'm like all the baseball boys, like I play baseball too. So we all went, and it just like fed my main character syndrome. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that's a problem I think I had. And like, it was like all my senses were like being stimulated all at the same time. And it felt great. And I told my mom, who was Catholic too, I was like, Mom, you got to come to this. Like, this is crazy. Like it's different.
Yeah.
It's crazy how wrong I was. And
Of course.
But yeah, that is crazy. What ended up for you, like leading you away from non-denominationalism, evangelicalism, and eventually like back to Catholicism, or what like made you question like, this doesn't seem like right?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I remember like I kind of had this thought of like where I was kind of pretty like convicted as an evangelical or as a practicing evangelical, because I was still Catholic. Like I was baptized Catholic, right? So like I'm technically a valid Catholic. I'm definitely illicit in that state, 100% illicit, but validly, like if you looked at me like spiritually, I got the mark. You know what I mean? I got this indelible mark on my soul, you know? That's Catholic. But I had this time where I was like, kind of like in this atheist agnostic like realm from like 17 to like 19, kind of left that. What was like, okay, I dealt with that issue. That's gone now. I'm not convinced of that, right? I'm not intellectually like compromised there. But then there was a thing of like Islam where I was like, like, is this whole like Jesus is God stuff like real? Or is he just a prophet? And then once I kind of stepped away from that, I was like, okay, the arguments aren't good. They suck. Jesus is God. And ultimately, like the best historical evidence doesn't point to the reliability of the Quran. So I was like, okay, we're good with that, you know? But Catholicism was always there in the back of the mind. It was always there, you know? It wasn't as like deeply convicting as it was at the end of my, you know, at the tail end, close to my reversion, but it was building up. And when it really, I think when I first kind of got my like real hit of like, okay, like there's some problems here. And if I'm going to stay here, I need to reconcile them. I had just got done playing baseball. Had kind of just been like, I'm done with this. And I think it's not really something that I want to do anymore. Stopped playing baseball. Had a conversation with my uncle because he wanted to talk to me about Catholicism, and we had a conversation, and he brought up, you know, stuff about the Eucharist, stuff about the papacy. Basically answered all of my questions about, you know, praying to saints, and I had asked him before about this kind of stuff, praying to saints, and all these very like general questions, you know, that have very easy answers, you know, but. That really kind of got me where like I would literally be in my bed and like I remember praying multiple times. This is interesting. I remember praying multiple times being like, Lord, I feel like this Catholic Church, this was like 2 years ago. I feel like the Catholic Church is like true, but like I don't know. Like let me know if it's true. And it would always be this weird thing of where it would always be like, yes. And then like another voice that was like, no, just follow Jesus. And and it just like I never made the decision, but the longer and longer I went, I always kind of describe it like this, like if this is like conviction and this is like pride, right? Rebellion. It started out like this, very much conviction, really low pride. And then it just kind of slowly just went that way. Because I saw like, you know, you see on social media, people talking about Catholicism more and more. Mm-hmm. And not even necessarily just Catholicism, but just like apostolic Christianity, like things that we would hold in common with like Orthodox and Oriental Orthodox and these things, right? Like these doctrines where I'm like, I don't hold that. I don't ask for the intercession of the saints. I don't think baptism regenerates, or at least at this place. I don't have a very high view of ecclesiology. I don't have a very high view of the Eucharist, if at all. I can't answer these questions, you know, these soteriological questions about, you know, is a person who gets saved, very evangelically kind of language, but gets saved, are they saved in finality, you know, or can they lose that salvation, you know? And flirted around with Calvinism for a little bit of time, but thankfully found some Sam Shamoun videos that were like, okay, this is not good, right? But yeah, it just, I could never get that like Catholicism bug out of my head. It was just always there, you know, like poking at my inside, being like, hey, dude, you're wrong. You're an idiot. Until it just boiled over to the point where God was like, okay, this idiot needs a supernatural experience if he's going to freaking make this decision, you know, to go. And praise the Lord that he had that much, you know, mercy on me.
Yeah. For me, it was like, it just wasn't enough. I felt like there was so much gray area in like so many topics that I felt like the non-denominational churches didn't have an answer to.
Sure.
It felt like I'm listening to advice, like a TED talk, you know, just,
yeah.
I'm like, but there's gotta be more than this, right? Like, where's how does this carry on into my life apart from Sunday?
There was a thing about communion where even like going, cause I would go, remember I went to a couple like different Protestant ecclesial communions, I went to a place called Apologia Church. It's actually run by James White. If you know who
Really?
James White is. Yeah.
Yeah.
James White and Jeff Durbin, two very prominent Reformed Baptists. And they did communion every Sunday, right? And there was a thing about that where it's like everybody gets up out of the pews, they walk to the middle, they walk down, right? It's not only this like super binding thing among the faithful, but it's also like you're making a public act of you're making a public profession of faith every time you do it. Because when people are looking at you, what you're saying is, I'm in a state worthy to receive my Lord. Right? And there's this like profound sense of like unity in doing that. Like there's a reason why when you look at like cultures, when you share a meal with somebody, like that shows that you want to get to know that person. You're deeply within that person, or like, want to be with that person. And that's what like sharing a meal does, like you don't share a meal with a stranger.
Yeah.
So, but there was just that thing where at the non-denom place where I was, we took communion 3 times a year, maybe. Right. And like, I'm like, yeah, this isn't good. Even from like a very high church Protestant perspective, so yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. I was talking to my priest about like how the graces of your baptism really kick in, and they did for me. It's like,
Sure.
even no matter how much I want to go this way, it's like I'm being pulled back this way to Catholicism. It's awesome.
That's what my godfather told me. He said, Carson, like the reason why you probably couldn't shake that out of your head with Catholicism, and you never really like fully went like full bore, like anti-Catholic, anti-Catholic, it's because your baptism, you had these theological virtues infused into you, that you just couldn't like shake, and praise God for that, for my family doing that for me.
Yeah. So your uncle sounds like an awesome dude. How did he play a role into your reversion?
Huge, man. Huge. I mean, he would he would tell me, I remember the first time I went to this non-denom place, I think he told me, maybe not the first time, but after a while, he told me, he's like, Carson, like, you're a smart guy. That's what he said. Right. And yeah, I am. He said, Carson, you're a smart guy and you want to know the truth. He goes, eventually you're just you're going to hit a max there to the point where you're just not, it's just not going to be fulfilling anymore. It's how it goes, bro. And you're going to have milk, and you're going to want meat, and you're going to come to the Catholic Church for that. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Okay. Like, no, 4 songs and a TED talk is good. It's good enough for me. And then, and we would just have conversations and we would debate, we would argue, and sometimes, we would stop talking for a little bit, not because I didn't like him, but just every time I called him, it was like a debate every time, talking about justification and talking about, the papacy and this kind of stuff. And, but I remember one time I was going on a little trip, like a little, like retreat, but it wasn't really, it's not a retreat, man. It's so much to explain, but basically like this big, like adventure weekend that they put on, right? Crazy. Like they have like a rave they have like a rave for this kind of thing. But my uncle, before I left, he gave me, these 3 volumes. They're over on my bookshelf over there. It's called, The Faith of the Early Fathers, by W.A. Jurgens. And they have writings from basically all of like the apostolic age. Not the full ones, right? Not the full documents themselves, but basically excerpts out of there that this author, W.A. Jurgens, felt were important enough to include, right? Within, so like they have like the Didache in there, but they don't have the full Didache. They just have like the quotes that he's like, these are like important to like, Christianity, from his perspective. You have stuff from St. John Chrysostom, Ignatius, like all the guys. They're not the full documents, right? And he gave those to me. And in the volume 1, which is literally from like the very start of the apostolic age, right after the writings of the apostles, you have kind of starts with like the letter to, or what's the one? Let me jog my memory. It is it's like the Didache, but then you have like before, even like, well, not even, actually that's probably the first one that's in there. But then you have like the letter of Barnabas. You have like I can't remember the name of it, but basically like in that book, Faith Early Fathers, Volume 1, where it's like the first 200 to 300 years of Christianity, he went through and marked everything, every place where it mentions the Eucharist. And you just find it consistently. You're like, oh, this is the bread of God. That is the flesh of Jesus Christ, right? All these different things, you know. And reading those, I remember one time, oh, this was nuts. I pulled out that book for the first time in a while, where I was living at this non-denom house with a bunch of, you know, my non-denominational buddies. The first thing I opened to is something on the Eucharist. And looking back, I was like, yeah, coincidence, whatever, you know. I was a stubborn dude, man. I get it through your thick skull, man. Trust me.
Yeah. And that's for me. It's like Catholicism is like not even like, I didn't want it to be true.
Totally.
It just was. No, I didn't want to be Catholic. You know, to me it was boring. To me it was, it wasn't. Yeah, I wanted to be non-denominational. I wanted to be different. I think it was also going through a phase where I wanted to be like all the baseball boys, and I also hadn't found my identity, and like been comfortable in like me being Hispanic and me, you know. So I wanted to like rebel and be like all the baseball boys, but eventually, I think God really helped me find who I was. But so like as you were like moving away from like that evangelical space, how did like these people, like the people around you, like the baseball boys, like your family, even your pastor, like how did they react?
Like when I made like my big move to bounce. What do you mean?
I mean, yeah. Or was there a process where they noticed like you were starting to kind of like move away and not be as like into it, or?
No, not really. It was very internal. It was very internal. Like I remember I'd be walking around at like where I used to work. I'd be walking around and in my head thinking like, I feel like if I died right now, like I wouldn't be good. I feel like there are these things I'm opposing that are true. You know, and I'm really trying to convince myself that it's not, because I know that there are some convicted Protestants where you'll hear them talk and you're like, they sound pretty convicted, you know.
Yeah.
Like Gavin Ortland, I think he said one time in like I think it was a Sola Scriptura debate with Trent Horn, he's like, it would absolutely tear my soul out of my chest if I had to, you know, do that. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna be real, I don't feel like that. Like internally, I don't feel like that. You know what I mean? I'm not that like committed to Protestantism, but no, it wasn't really known. They were pretty shocked. It was very internal. I kind of tried to keep this like arrogant facade on the outside of like, this isn't true. Like Catholicism is not true for, you know, this and this reason. But when I finally made the decision to come back and, you know, come back to the Catholic Church and kind of leave those guys for the truth, it was pretty shocking for him, for sure. And I didn't get to talk to everybody at that non-denom church. But I knew everyone there because I had been there for like 3.5 years and played piano there, went on mission trips, was in the community, you know. So it was shocking for a lot of people, but you know, I mean, I knew without a doubt, if like it was one of the only things in life that I've ever done where I was like, this is exactly what God wants me to do, without a doubt. And if I'm wrong, then I can stand before God and know that I was being completely genuine. And if I'm wrong, then I can plead the mercy of God, because I was like, there is no doubt in my mind.
That's crazy. I can't imagine that, because I didn't go to my non-denominational church for that long, for like 2 months. So
Sure.
I didn't really get to build many relationships, which I guess good thing that I didn't have to. So I mean, I guess it must have taken a lot of a lot of courage to do that. And
It's hard.
yeah, that was definitely probably very tough. Uh, as you were moving back, I bet like a lot of things probably felt very foreign to you. And like for a lot of converts, like the toughest thing to embrace is like the Marian dogmas and praying the intercession of the saints. How did you navigate that? Like, was that a problem for you at first, or?
I'll say this, nobody converts or reverts because they went through all the dogmas and went, yeah, I agree with all these, right? That's not how anybody believes in Jesus,
Mhm.
really ever. I mean, maybe a select few, but most people believe in Jesus because they see the credibility of Christ. They look at Jesus and they go, wow, that guy, that man is trustworthy in a way that no one else is,
Mhm.
right? So they don't look and go, oh, Jesus, well, you said I can't get remarried. Oh, Jesus, you said that I got to eat your body and eat your blood. Can't do it. Instead, what does the Apostle Peter say? Who else am I going to turn to? Because they know, they're like, this guy's the Messiah. I can't, like, I'm not going to put myself over him.
Mhm.
If he says it, that goes, So, and a lot of these guys, they had profound experiences with the Messiah. Like you can see like Nathaniel, where he says to Nathaniel, I saw you under the fig tree. And he's like,
Yeah.
so how'd you see me? How do you know this? Same thing with the woman at the well, right? All these different experiences where they have these things that transcend human reason, to where it's like, well, human reason can't explain that, but it's so real. And that's the kind of the thing that I had that happened with my mom that really made me come back, to where I was like, I might not understand, but that's not the point. I don't have to understand right now. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get to understand, right? But I don't need to have an expert understanding of this and be able to refute it to any Protestant to obey God.
Yeah. That absolutely. That's something I had to overcome too. Is like trying to like I have to understand everything and be able to refute every Protestant on so and so topic.
I know. I get it.
I was-
I get it.
or like I gotta. My mom is someone who's very. She's very. She questions a lot of things. I think a lot of it has to do with her past for
Totally.
a good reason. She has the right.
Sure.
And so for me, like she's saying like, well, what about this? And I felt like I had to explain everything to her as
Sure.
if I wasn't new myself.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I wish I just would have, sometimes I wish I would have just like shut my mouth at times and just like try to grow in my faith before trying to immediately go out and do that. And
Sure.
I feel like that's a big thing I feel like you see online is you see a lot of people trying to start an apologetics YouTube channel. I even did it. I did it like I had more time under my belt, but still,
Sure.
I still didn't know as much as I thought I did.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So you feel like that was something you had to overcome is like trying to refute everyone and
Yeah. I mean, in my personal life, it was kind of not that hard because the non-denominational world is not full of scholars.
yeah.
If we're just being real, right? Like if I was coming from a Lutheran background or maybe from, an Anglican or even like there's some like Reformed Baptists that are pretty smart, that are pretty sharp, but when it comes to like the non-denominational evangelical world, most of the people that I was dealing with, I'm like, with what I know, even from like wanting to like refute Catholicism, what I know, I could defend this against them. Like I could, but I think that there were things where I'm like, I can see why this makes sense. I might not have the full picture, right? Like the papacy, right? Like the Assumption, some of these different dogmas that aren't as like, as clear, if you would want to say, maybe to someone who's like trying to look into them and is hearing the other side, but like I knew that I was like, well, what has happened in my life is something that I can't walk away from and go, that was a coincidence, you know, or that was a work of Satan. So I couldn't do that. And it was more so like, well, because I can see that the church, right, that Jesus gave us a church. If I trust Jesus, then I have to trust the church that he gave me, that he gave everyone, right? So it made me go, well, it's not, because I heard this from Joe Heschmeyer is good. He's like, literally what I've been saying, it's like, you don't trust somebody based upon what necessarily all of what they're saying, but more so with who they are, you know, especially when it comes to somebody like God incarnate, right?
Yeah.
You know, like you're not going to go to a doctor who is like an expert in medicine and he says something that you're like, I don't know. And but most likely you're going to be like, this guy probably knows what he's talking about more than me. Now, it's way different when it comes to God in the flesh though, right? It's not even close. God in the flesh, it's like, oh, if you told me go and jump off a cliff, I would go and do it. Because you're God in the flesh, you know? Like, and I might hesitate, but it's like, this is like the faith of Abraham. You know what I mean? But, but like, yeah. So then that just applies to the church where Jesus gives authority to the church, which is the pillar and foundation of truth, you know? So.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 Timothy 3:15.
You know it, man.
Yeah. Coming back, man, it's like, I always thought, I didn't know theology was such a profound study.
Sure.
I always thought, like, I don't know, when I was younger, like I said, like, had main character syndrome, thought I was super cool. I always thought, like, people singing in church was corny. I always thought, like, these people were being performative. Sure. I thought that the Bible was, like, it is, like you said, outdated. It's like, and you realize actually just how profound theology is once you actually start studying it.
Totally.
It's like, dude, this is insane. Like, I love it.
Yep.
So when you were like kind of having like to defend your position after your reversion, like what was something that you found yourself having to like constantly just defend, and it's like, or even to this day, it's like just feels frustrating and annoying.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if I would say something that's common, you know, not necessarily common around like more like intellectual, intellectual spaces, you know what I mean? Where you get like, you know, higher church Protestants that will not really give these like slop arguments.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to, I guess common things, it would probably just be, hey, you know, praying to the saints, right? And just having to really break down like our terms and what we mean by that, you know, because it really just comes down to what your definition of prayer is, how you view intercession, you know, how you view heaven, you know, but that's really what it comes down to. And I think that that's probably the one where it's like, oh, you guys pray to, but when they mean pray to, they mean worship in the sense of due to God alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what they mean. So it's like, I feel like that's probably the most common one. But I mean, that one's not really crazy to like defend against most people, right? Most people, they're not extremely knowledgeable where they're like really deep, you know, into this stuff. But I mean, some people, they kind of want to not really agree as much, you know, in some of these questions. But I mean, I think that one of the traps too is like within trying to convert somebody or evangelize to somebody in these kinds of things. Like, I think the trap too is like, even if I do out logic them and beat them at every turn, I don't think most of the time that they're going to be like, well, I'm coming to church with you on Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not really how it goes. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have answers. It just means that we shouldn't put too much stock in like, if we refute all of their objections, then they're going to have to submit. Like, I didn't do that. I had problems where I couldn't answer questions and I still stuck it out, you know? because it's more, we're more emotionally invested, where it's like we care more about the comfortability, the community, the popularity or the money or the power or the fame or whatever, where more so we're like, we're not really caring about truth.
Yeah, that's something I had to learn, is like when to debate and when not to debate.
Fair.
Wanting to debate about everything,
Sure.
and realizing that debates can only do so much.
Yeah. Debates are really more for like the people watching.
Yeah.
Like a formal debate. Most people, like, if you're going into a formal debate, your goal is not, I'm going to convert this person, because it's probably not going to happen, most likely. But what it is I'm trying to show the audience who's watching the problems in their worldview,
Yeah. I try to take the approach of like St. Paul, him debating, with the Greeks, and
Sure.
I doubt that a lot of the people he was debating were actually converted, and
Well,
just
they
learned
martyred
to.
him.
And, yeah.
That's why they cut his head off.
Yeah.
So,
kind of around this reversion period, what kind of content creators were you watching, or what were you watching, consuming that also was helping alongside with that conversion?
right. I think I was avoiding a lot of them, to be real, because I didn't want to hear the arguments. I didn't want to, listen. But ultimately, like, I would be listening to a lot of like Protestant guys, back then, like Gavin Ortland and who else? Gosh, I gotta think. Gavin Ortland was like a really, really good one. Would listen to
Ryan's from needguy.net.
Oh, yes. That was my favorite. No. Who else? What was one guy I was thinking about? Like Jeff Durbin, I would listen to some of his stuff. It was pretty good. Some of the James White stuff was good, or that I liked, you know what I mean? But I would, come across like Catholic stuff on my Instagram and on my feed. And like, I would almost like not want to watch it, because I was like, I'm going to get convicted. I would literally feel like there were times when I would go and pray as a non-denom, where like I didn't want to go and pray, because I knew like God was going to like convict me. He's going to be like, you're dumb, dude. And you know it. Like, you're literally rebelling and you know it. And like, I'm not leaving, bro. I'm still here. Like, you're going to go crazy, bro. If it, you know what I mean? Like you're going to either die and go to hell, or you're going to be insane for your whole life because you're living a double mind, But yeah, I mean, guys that kind of brought me back. I mean, I think that some of the arguments from Sam Shamoon really helped for more just like general apostolic Christianity, the nature of baptism, the mother of God, right? Which I didn't have a problem calling her the mother of God at the time. I had a problem calling her sinless, right?
Yeah.
I had a problem with, because he doesn't really argue for the very like specific Catholic Marian dogmas. He more argues for just like Theotokos and the sinlessness and the perpetual virginity, which Theotokos and perpetual virginity are kind of those two that you can believe as a non-denom, but sinlessness, obviously not. But then, arguing for stuff like purgatory, in some of his videos, where I'd see stuff where it'd be like saintly intercession, and I'd be like, I'm not watching that.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And that was honestly a testament too, was like me closing myself off, being like, I think you know why you're closing yourself off, But, just seeing things and, just kind of accumulating all this like knowledge where I was like, this isn't good. It ain't good. So yeah, bro.
What made you start to want to also make content?
Yeah, right. Well, I had been posting like a lot of like music stuff on social media as like a non-denom, trying to like build this like, music platform that I was doing. And I never wanted to be like disingenuous with with the kind of content I was making. I didn't want to be like making content knowing like, oh, I'm hiding this like version of myself, from the world. Because I never did that with non-denominationalism. I never hid that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you truly believe it, you're not going to hide it, especially if it's something that is leading you to eternal life. That should be the main thing,
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't be like a side thing, main. But ultimately, I wanted to start posting because of that. I had a profound emotional experience, with my mom, had a profound experience with her, and was like, I need to tell the world about this. But also the other thing too is that a lot of the people that I knew at that non-denom place, I knew I couldn't talk to everybody, I knew I couldn't have a conversation one-on-one with everybody in the way that I would want to, like with a lot of the guys and a lot of the people that I was close with. So I was like, I'm gonna make this video. I have it pinned on my page. It's when I'm talking in the car. And I was like, I'm gonna post this. And it was really hard to post it too, because I was like, I'm kind of making a point of no return here, and posted that. And I remember because the Sunday that I went to my first mass coming back, where I was like actually open, because I had been to mass before that with my mom, because I would go with her because she wanted me to come with her. But I wasn't really like there. But that February 1st, I was supposed to play piano that weekend. And I told the guy, I was like, the head director guy, or with all the scheduling kind of stuff, I was like, hey, sorry it's really late notice, because it was Friday. I was like, I'm not gonna make it, bro, sorry. And then he saw that video later on of me talking about this, and he was like, hey, you just saw your video, like hopefully all this doctrinal stuff works out or something like that. But I didn't really get any pushback from the non-denom people that I was with. I didn't really get them coming to me. I didn't really get them coming to me and being like, hey, Carson, like, you're really wrong, dude. And like, you're in sin and this, and that. Which kind of, to me, shows how convicted they truly are with their beliefs. Because if you really thought I was going down a path that's, towards not the truth,
Mm-hmm.
you would tell me. Like you would like plead with me, like, dude, don't.
I think that also shows like how like self-centered non-denominationalism is too.
Sure.
Like I feel like sometimes it preaches brotherhood, but really, at least for me, like maybe where I went, it was like all focusing on myself. And you notice that, when you see someone who in their head is on their way to hell and they don't warn them, kind of shows how maybe those people were focused too much on themselves. Maybe. I mean, sure. I can't make that judgment on them, but
sure. Well, when you go to a place where it's like a very like, fun, and like the people, they come there not necessarily to like really for worshiping God, but they come there now more for just like the community and just to have friends. You kind of get this vibe where you're like, I don't think that this guy next to me would like die for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like, obviously I don't know the guy, but like when I'm like, I went to TLM yesterday, right? Or even like one of my first masses where the chapel was closed and we were all in like a different room where we were kneeling on the ground, for the consecration. I'm like, yeah, you get the vibe of these people like they would give up their lives right now for you and for the person next to them and, for Christ, Not saying that there aren't non-denominationals who won't do that. There definitely are. But I think that there is this sense of like the liturgy, right? The service is for evangelization, right? Where it's like, no, the service, the liturgy is to worship. And if it evangelizes in the process, fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But the point of the liturgy is not to evangelize the non-believer. That's never been the point. The point has been to worship God. And if the non-believer thinks it's great, cool. If he doesn't, I don't care, like,
yeah,
it's not here for you.
Yeah. There was a point in time where it's like almost like this rivalry of me and my friend on who we could take to church and get them to stick with us in church.
Sure.
That wasn't like, I don't think it was either of our intentions. Like we never talked about it or like had any animosity towards each other. But I guess like maybe from the outside or from the people that we were inviting, that maybe might have been what it looked like, but like I was inviting my friends to the Catholic church,
Hmm.
and he was inviting our friends to the non-denominational church.
Sure.
And obviously, he had a lot easier time getting them to stick with it, maybe for a month, or getting them to even go in the first place
Yeah.
because it's so fun.
Fair.
But
Totally.
yeah, I think time always tells, right?
Of course.
And I've been able to get through to my friends, and I just thank God for that. That
Yeah. Praise the Lord.
you know, you have yeah. So you've been making content. What advice like would you have for someone that's kind of in your shoes and it's like afraid to share their Catholic faith at first, or maybe came out of a place like evangelicalism and wants to share their Catholic faith online, because we obviously see how much of a gift the online space is to be able to evangelize and share the faith with people.
Sure.
What advice would you give to them when doing that?
I think it's you really got to look at it as like quality over quantity, you know, because it is important that like if you do want something to grow like this, right, you do have to post quite a bit. Like if you look at like, let's say like Jesus and whatnot, like I could probably, I don't know, where's my phone at? Look at how many posts he has. Let's do a little check here. I bet it's over 500. Let's see. Instagram. My boy Jaw. Not Jawbreaker. Yeah. 917.
Wow. That's
Okay.
insane.
Right. And if you go to other creators, that's all of them. And this dude has now 380,000, almost 380,000 followers. So like the truth is that like right now I'm at something like 417, I think. If you're going to get to the point where like you're huge, you know, you got a lot of following, it takes a minute. Like it doesn't happen. Like for most people, it doesn't happen overnight. But the trap or the you know the temptation is to just like post whatever. And the problem with that though sometimes is that you can have a video where you're like, okay, I did this, I think I'm explaining it well, this and that. But you really have to make sure like, hey, before I post this, right? Like, is this orthodox, right? Is this true? You know, is this actually going to help somebody? You know, and there has to be a lot of prayer with that, man. You know, to where it's like you have to realize that if you're going to start teaching, or if you're going to do a video about teaching, right? Think of how many people are going to see that, and think of is this gonna lead to my condemnation, or is it going to lead to my sanctification? You know, is it going to lead me closer to God? You know, dude, I've had videos where like I had a video blow up about, it's like 3 million. It was about a lot of this like Epstein stuff, you know, and like Israel, you know, and this psyop of the world where the world is really run by satanic elites. And I look at the video and I look back and it's at like almost 3 million or over 3 million views. And I'm like, and I'm watching it over, listening to it. I'm like, was this like, am I erring here at all? Because if I am, that's not good.
Yeah.
It's bad. Right. But I listen back to it. And I'm like, no, I agree with all this. This is great. I think this is totally sound. And ultimately, if somebody thinks it's not right, then I'm open to listen. I'm open to listening, you know, but I think that there has to be consideration into it where it's like, okay, before I post, I have to really think, because there is a trap where it's like, you set a goal for yourself, right? You're like, I'm going to post every day, or I'm going to post 2 times a day. And then, you know, you rushed on something because you needed to get it out and you didn't want to go back on this goal. And now you post something that you look like a fool, you know, and it looks bad, you know, and you're like, crap, you know? So I think it takes a lot of prayer, a lot of consideration, man. And like really making sure that like, you know what you're getting into. Like a lot of the stuff, dude, sometimes I don't even really post a lot of stuff necessarily about like refuting Protestant apologetics. Sometimes I just post more things just specifically about the Catholic faith or like humorous stuff. Cause one of the things I want to be honest about is like, I know that I'm not Trent Horn.
Yeah.
I know that I'm not, one of the guys, his name is Timothy Gordon. I love that dude. Timothy Gordon's cool if you know who that is. Shout out Timothy if he ever sees this. But like, I know I'm not those guys. And I'm not going to pretend to be. Right? Like, I know I'm not knowledgeable. I know a good amount. I'm not there. So it's like, I'm not going to parade around as something that I'm not either.
Yeah. I think that's such a big thing. It's like I had to humble myself when it comes to my content creation because I wanted to be like make all these like create like I want to make like these claims refuting the Protestants, refuting so and so, and it's like, dude,
Sure.
I really don't know as much as I know because I know if I was faced with like a high level Protestant or a high level Eastern Orthodox, I would probably be out of my element.
Yeah.
I'm still young. I still need to study more. So I was like, I want to change the aim of my channel. I want to let's do interviews with people. Let me do video essays. Like recently, I did one that's like, should philosophy be used in Christian theology? And I think that one is a lot better one to do than attacking other people, or not necessarily attacking, but going after other people or whatever.
Well,
And
Scholastic Answers, he doesn't really do a lot of debates.
yeah,
Wagner, he doesn't do a lot. That,
and
like,
he's the best.
right, but like that's not really his thing. Like I think he's even said like debates aren't really my thing. I feel like he's said that before. But you don't see Wagner in like a lot of debates.
Mhm.
As far as I'm concerned, because I've tried to look up some like debates with him, and he doesn't really have much. But that's not really his element necessarily. Or maybe with anybody, debates aren't always necessarily like your thing. Like Matt Fradd, I think he has like a master's in something, maybe like a PhD.
I think he has something in philosophy.
Yeah, right. And he's not like the debate guy. He's like the podcast bring on people guy, So not everybody's that guy either, And I think like the truth is for me personally, and I think this should be everybody's view, I could care less if I had 2,000 followers or if I had 100 million. My goal is ultimately I want to serve God. I want to love God, right? And then love others, right? But the thing is like, if I had 2,000 or if I had a bunch, I want to be able to make sure that if I have a family, I can support them. And if that means I'm well known because of, social media, then cool. If it means nobody knows my name, great. Because what matters more than who knows me or this kind of stuff, I could care less. What matters more is, if I'm a priest, which I don't think I'm going to be personally, that could always change. But, like, am I caring for the faithful, let's say? Or if I have a family, am I actually caring for my family? Whether nobody knows my name or whether everybody knows my name. If I can support them, then it doesn't matter, Maybe, it has to be a lot of people know my name to, to be able to like make a steady income, But if that's not the reason though, That's just enough. That's a byproduct of it, But it's like at the end of the day, dude, like I had a dude yesterday at mass where he was like, oh, whoosh. And this is real. He's like, I know you. I'm like, from? And I was like, maybe social media. He's like, yeah, I know you from social media. And I was like, sick, dude. But it's like my prayer life, reading the Bible, all this kind of stuff, like it all stays the same. Going to mass, if anything, it heightens, it intensifies. Because like I said before, if I want to be talking about the faith, there's a point in my head where I go, do I actually want to be talking about the faith? Because I know what that means scripturally, right? If I start talking about the faith, I'm going to incur a harder judgment. If I start learning more, I'm going to incur a harder judgment. But obviously that shouldn't make us turn to cowardice either, but we need to have that in mind. When it comes to making content, you gotta have a responsibility about it and know what you're getting into and be really careful. Yeah.
And you answered one of my questions. I was going to ask, like, how do you like navigate being a content creator in spiritual life? Like we've seen so many creators like have to like take a step back because it's something seriously like
totally
a spiritually like dangerous job to have. Like, even me, like I don't have that a crazy amount of followers or a crazy amount of
Sure.
subscribers, but even
Sure.
me, like I sometimes I find myself like doing some things for the wrong reason.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's constantly having to check yourself. So I think that's great. And I
Yeah.
think that's great advice for me, for anyone who wants to be a creator.
Totally.
Speaking of, we were talking about debates, like Wagner not debating. I've seen like you've done some like discussions, had some people, atheists come on. You ever thinking about doing like a formal debate?
Well, dude, it was literally just like sometimes I would go like on Omegle and be like, you know what, let's just ask some people, and that's a little bit easier in the sense that like it's not always like the hardest, most challenging debates, but sometimes those are great because it comes from like people who are just like normal and like aren't the most scholarly type, you know, and kind of these common objections necessarily. But I have thought about it. I'm just kind of more in the spot where I'm like, I think that in terms of like formal debating, I don't know if I'd be open right now to formal debating, but possibly like a conversation where it's like, hey, we're just going to talk about some stuff and like maybe have like a precedence of like, hey, if I don't have an answer, I'm not the Mr. Know-it-all Catholicism. I'm not the Catholic Answers guys, where it's like, dude, you should know. It's like, dog,
Yeah.
I've been a devout Catholic all of 6 months. I mean, was there a lot leading up to that? It wasn't like I was brand spanking new when I got, my reversion. It wasn't like, oh, he doesn't know anything. I knew stuff, but like there's a wisdom there when you've been Catholic for 4 years, and
Yeah.
you've been in it.
Yeah. That's, yeah. I've thought about it. I don't know, like same thing. I was like, I still feel like I have so much left to learn. And also I think spiritually I'm not there yet. I wanna be able to, I think I've gotten a lot better though. With my dad being a Jehovah's Witness, like it definitely takes a lot of patience to deal with
He's
that.
still a practicing Jehovah's Witness.
It's crazy because like at the time of my reversion, that's like the time of his reversion to Jehovah's. Yeah, the JW. So
Jeez, man. Yeesh.
with me and him, it's like kind of like you were saying with you and your uncle. Like every time you talk, it's about something like that. Every time we talk, it's a debate. But we have really grown in our relationship and been able to have conversations that are productive. Unfortunately, I feel like he's just kind of stubborn. I don't know if he will ever kind of change from that. I pray that he does, but I don't know.
Yeah, well,
It's not a great,
God can change his heart. God can change anybody's heart, man, and
absolutely.
it's up to the Lord. You know what I mean? Because it's not him that moves first, but ultimately we receive that prevenient grace. It's God who gives that grace. And we cooperate it. You know what I mean? We cooperate with it, but like God, what is it? It's Romans 8. What is it? God justifies or God gives justice to who he wills and mercy to whom he wills. Something like that. You know what I mean? So God is sovereign. God has it all planned out, and we don't have to worry.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but like we have to remember that like it's not like this is like a world of chance. It's not a world of chance.
Yeah. We were talking about earlier about how like around 2022, non-denominationalism was on the uprise, and now it's crazy. Like who could have seen it coming? Catholicism now on the uprise.
Yeah. Totally. Well, non-denominationalism still is kind of growing, but definitely there's been an uptick in Catholicism. Like everybody sees that, especially this year.
Yeah. And with that, there are so many blessings that we have as a community. There's so many great things, but also it introduces some new problems. And what are some of those kind of problems that you see specifically in like the online space?
I think that sometimes you can see problems with just like, I think, how do I put this? It's not like slop apologetics. It would just be like focusing like too much on like gotcha and like very clickbaity type content. Because I've been, I've probably posted a couple things that are more clickbaity, but the reason why you want to is because it works.
Yeah.
It gets the eyes. Like I've seen stuff where like Catholic Sam, when he was posting and Jesus and whatnot, them having to go back and be like, hey, I wasn't very clear on this, and I kind of should have been more clear. And it's probably they weren't that clear because they know that like somebody, when they're watching a video, the first like 2 seconds when you see a video is like, am I going to watch the rest of it? And it's like, if you start off a video saying, hey, there's going to be a disclaimer on this video, probably going to get taken down. Now the people are like, I'm interested.
Yeah. Right.
But if you're going to say that, the content after has to justify that claim, or if you say like, make an audacious claim, then the content behind it has to justify that, and it has to make sense. It can't be just like, oh, he just did that because he's a grifter and he just wants views. You know what I mean? So I think that that can be an issue sometimes, where you get people where they kind of post this content where it's like, all right, like I think you like there's a point to being humorous maybe and like making a joke, but I think part of that, you might have done that just as kind of like, you just wanted to get a rise out of some people. Like, I don't know, saying something like, oh, you're a Protestant, like a video where you're like this, and you're like based and you're filming yourself, you know what I mean? and it's like a song in the background, and it's like, Protestants don't believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Like if you did that, that's probably going to get you some views, but it's going to be a bunch of comments saying you're an idiot, because that's not every Protestant, So it's like, it's kind of balancing that out of like, hey, we're not saying make your content not engaging, because I don't even think Jesus necessarily was like a guy where our Lord, I don't want to say that, a guy, just some guy, our Lord. But ultimately, like our Lord didn't present things in such a way that people didn't want to, necessarily that they would be able to digest them or would get like bored. It's not like he was necessarily on the totally opposite side of, I'm going to pander to these people. Right.
Well, I mean, people thought Paul was boring too.
Right. But you see what I'm saying, right? Like obviously it's extremes, right? There's the extreme of like being totally like pandering to the audience and just trying to get clicks. But then there's like being completely boring where nobody wants to listen at all. Right. So there's a middle ground there where you got to find that. Like, this is why I would even assume that like Jesus, when he speaks in parables, he speaks in parables because it's easier for people to understand.
Yeah.
He's not trying to make it boring or hard necessarily. Right. Are they sometimes hard to understand? Yes, because he's speaking of heavenly realities, trying to give a parable to where they can understand, But even him speaking in parables shows that he cares about people actually being able to receive what he's saying, So it's like that middle ground, dude, of not like slop, just clickbaity, like rage bait, almost like content, versus like very boring, content. It's like you're gonna make your audio, your video, you're gonna make the cuts in a certain way where it's engaging to watch. It's like, of course, because you want people to watch. If it's something you care about, you want them to watch the entire thing. You just don't want to forsake truth and like credibility, and that kind of thing, for the sake of views.
Yeah, absolutely. You see those, the clickbait, and then you see like I don't know why it's been such a big deal. It's like the people getting upset about like these interracial marriage, like the SSPX, like kind of like, and I doubt that these people a lot of them have ever even been to an SSPX chapel before.
I've never been.
Yeah. So I'm talking about like the people who like kind of like are like embrace traditionalism,
Sure.
reject modernism.
I got my dog.
And like,
oh, there's.
oh
okay.
wow!
All right, bro. She just came in. She was like, "What's up?" Anyways, she's a licker, dude. You got to be careful with her because she freaking she's got her leg caught on the dang cord. No, you got to be careful with her. She'll lick your face off. I'm like, I know where your mouth's been. I don't want that on my face.
Yeah, well, my dog, he goes for the ears immediately. He's
anyways, I'm sorry. You were saying.
Oh, it's just like the people who like embrace traditionalism, reject modernism, and then go like super hardcore on that. And like you said, like there's a balance for everything. They're the people who completely say Novus Ordo is like the set of a contest. Like Novus Ordo is
right,
incorrect.
Right. But that's the thing, right? What you just expressed is the reason why people watch it is because it's a sexy claim.
Yeah.
You know, it's the sexier claim to go, yeah, the Novus Ordo does not contain the means of salvation, which Archbishop Lefebvre, I think he said. It was either him or one of the guys.
Yeah.
They said that. Like that's the more like eyeballs claim, right? Not the modest claim of, well, no, like it's not intrinsically evil. It's just, it can kind of get away a little bit of the tradition. It can get away from the tradition a little bit, but people don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
They want to hear the set of a contest, like that's interesting to hear, not necessarily the modest claim.
Yeah. It gets engagement, and that's part of reflecting on why am I doing this too.
Totally.
But now we've gotten, those are really all the big questions I had for you.
Sure.
Let's get into some more fun ones, just more about you personally.
Sure.
Obviously you got the organ, or not organ, like the keyboard in the back.
Yeah.
The non-denominational keyboard in the back.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, the red one, man. On this, you got to clip it. You got to show it, dude. Some guy in like jeans and a t-shirt and a little, overcoat, dude. A little 3-piece with some forces on, playing freaking some, worthy is yours.
Well, we were just talking
Get
about
emotional.
clickbait. We were just talking about clickbait. I'm gonna put like a red keyboard in the thumbnail, like Carsonnetz turning non-denominational.
Oh yeah, I know.
Gotta-
And it's just me like,
Yeah.
no, dude. Hey, on this, I still have some of the settings that I'd use for like the non-denom. Like one of the settings on there is literally one of the settings that like Elevation Worship
Oh.
would use. Check this out. It sounds like. Let's see. Yeah, this one. Listen to this. Okay, give me like 2 seconds because my speakers have to warm up. Let me see. Let me see if this works. Do you feel like you're at the? do you feel like you're looking at the stage already?
Well, you gotta have the pastor doing like the cadence, like the stutter on purpose.
Oh, what do you mean?
You know what I'm talking
sorry.
about?
No.
Well, there's been like videos of like where when they're preaching, they do like this stutter, but it's like not. It's like on purpose. Like I just feel like God is just he's talking to me. You know?
Yeah. I know. Wait, could you hear that well or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's the vibe. You know what I mean? That's the vibe. And but no, this is dope. But
did you play like once the pastor was ending his like sermon, like as he was ending it? Did you like kind of sneak behind and start like playing the keys lightly?
Dog, you can find probably a video of me at the non-denom church where I used to go. You can find multiple videos of me. But dude, there would be. They would tell me, they'd be like, hey, you can't play like the, because I would want to play stuff like this. I want to play freaking, let's see, just, I'll add like a reverb a little bit, like this. Like I'd want to play some stuff like that, like,
Oh,
have fun, But no, I'd have to stick to stuff like this. Just like, just very like, feel like you're at a wedding. But yeah, you could probably, and it's cringy, dude. I look at videos. Speaking of that, this is a cool little thing. I have this tattoo on my arm.
What is it? Grace through faith. There we go.
Yeah. If whoever is watching this, if they watch it, if you know Protestant apologetics, and look, which verse did I leave out?
Working itself through love.
No, for we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus, the works that He prepared beforehand, so that we should walk in them. Something like that.
What am I thinking of? I think I'm thinking about Galatians 5:6.
For by grace you've been saved, through faith, not of yourselves, a gift of God, not of works that no one may boast. Everyone quotes that and goes, "You Catholics don't believe that.
Yeah.
You guys believe you have to add works onto it." But then just read verse 10, which I didn't get verse 10 on my arm. Because when you read verse 10, it's for we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus, that God prepared good works beforehand, right? So that we should walk in them. It's like, oh, we should walk in them. Some translation will say that we would walk in them. Right? It's like, oh, so it's not an option that I have to walk in good works. I have to do good works.
It's like if our life was pointless, then if what we do on this earth doesn't matter, then what's the point of living?
Totally. And it's just that whole conversation. It just depends on how you define faith. Because what's interesting? I came across a passage. It was Mark chapter 5 verse 7, where it literally shows a man possessed by a demon and he worships Jesus. Isn't that nuts?
Wow.
He worships Jesus, this guy who's possessed by a demon, which it's the demon. It literally says, some translation will say adore Jesus or worship Jesus. But the thing is if you ask any evangelical, hey, do you think worshiping Jesus alone is good enough to get you into heaven? Yeah. But you know what the difference between the demon is and the human? One has charity, one doesn't.
Yeah.
Like that's the difference, because when we talk about a real trust in Jesus, it's not even necessarily bowing the knee to Jesus, because even when we go to every knee shall bow on earth or in heaven, on earth, and under the earth. Under the earth includes hell, because the demon submitted to Jesus. The demon worshiped Christ, but not in like a willful obedience, but in more of like a reflex.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like this is the Son of God, like almost like just like I had to, because it's God, right? Even hell submits to God, not in the sense of a willful obedience of I want to do your will, but even if they're going to go and torment a human or anything like that, they have to get God's permission. They can't ever bypass God. They're still under His authority, no matter what. So, but the difference is that the trust, a real trust, is animated by charity, but it's not merely just an intellectual thing that produces where the charity is merely just like a, or the good works, right, are merely just this fruit and sign of justification already obtained, because then why would Abraham's faith have come to a completion by him offering up Isaac on the altar?
It reminds me of like when I was going to mass on whenever my heart wasn't in it, like I worshipped, yeah, but my heart wasn't in it. My life outside of that mass was not a reflection of who Christ wanted me to be, of my baptismal promises.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was doing it out of like, oh, well, I'm Catholic, so I'll do it. But that's ultimately the difference.
Totally.
Yeah. What I can see is you do like the UFC skits. You did the one with like Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz. Nate can only count to 4.
Oh my gosh, yeah, dude. See, doing his impression is just easier if you sound like a leprechaun, you know. Dana White, OG at a fight game. OG at a fight game. You know, he's like Dana. That's like
Who's
younger
your
Connor.
favorite?
But
Yeah, yeah, his accent changed. I don't like out of nowhere.
yeah, I know.
He comes back. It's different.
He got older. He got older. You know.
Yeah.
He's like, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. You know, verses at the beginning. And then in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. I don't even. I can't really say it, but yeah, sounding like me pot of gold. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Fiddle-dee-tee. You know? But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Who's your favorite UFC fighter?
Oh man, good question.
We'll do all time and then right now.
All time, I think I'd have to go. You know what? I'm gonna go all time. Let me think. Jeez. Like a guy that I would love to see fight in his prime. I would say, I don't know why this came to my mind. It might not even be the one I'd want to say, but Anderson Silva.
Oh yeah,
Anderson Silva be sick. You know what I mean?
Skilled.
But it's so weird watching him. Like when he talks, he sounds like so not like how you'd think. Thank you, Dana. Thank you. He's got that high pitched like voice. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Chill. I don't know what you're talking about. And obviously he doesn't speak. Well, he speaks English, but he uses this translator. You know, where it's like, dude, you speak English. That was the thing of like Chael, where he's like, he has a translator. This guy interprets. He speaks English. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I'd say favorite fighter currently. I don't know, dude. I'll go. Maybe we'll go Gaethje.
Yeah.
He's
awesome.
I think he's great, man. And like he's from Arizona, where I'm from. Hometown.
And he's Catholic.
Is he?
Yeah.
What do you know, man? The whole world's Catholic, dude. You know, but no, hey, fun fact. Did you know pants are Catholic too?
Pants. Just like what we were.
Saint Pantalones.
Oh.
That's
Spanish
a real
for
saint.
pants, yeah.
That's a real saint.
Wow. And he created pants.
It's either pantaloons or pantalone, yeah, something like that. But I think the reason is it's not because it's something of like a martyrdom story where I think he like hold on, Saint Pantalones. Oh, Saint Pantaleon. Or
I'm pretty sure you can, if you want, you can screen share.
prayer for can I?
You should be able to. If you don't, I'll give you permission to.
I don't know. Prayer for pants. Isn't he the Venetian character who famously wore trousers? He is humorously known as the unofficial patron saint of pants. Why though? Something I think it's something according to like his martyrdom. Something has to do with like pants, something like that. And the reason why I even thought about this was because for the first time ever yesterday at the gym, I split my underwear squatting.
Oh, really?
Down the middle.
It's never happened to me. Actually, wait, I think it actually has in football. This is the worst thing ever.
That was nuts, dude. That was nuts. I remember I went down. It was my last set, 4 sets of 5. And I went down and I felt it on the first rep. And it sucked because I had to finish, the set, right? But I felt, I was like, there's a disturbance in the force. Something's up. Something's up there. And I was like, I don't think I farted or like pooped my pants because I didn't feel a change in, in the sphincter.
Yeah.
So I think we're good there. But I was like, did I just split my shorts? And I was like, hopefully it's not my whole shorts. Because right now, if that happens, whoever's behind me is seeing something unpleasant. And then I felt my shorts and I was like, okay, we're good. And I was like, it's probably my underwear. And I look at my underwear and they're like literally a hole in it. And I was like, well, that's a first. Never done that. Sick. Great. I guess a powerful squat, man.
That's great.
I know. It's funny.
I've had some funny moments in the gym during football lifting. It was right before school ended. We were lifting with team. I'd come up an injury, had an ankle surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm squatting for one of the first times again. It's like my third time squatting, and I go down, and my friend's watching me. Like he's like kind of watching over the corner of his eye. He doesn't think I need a spot. It's like 185 pounds. It's light. I go down, and he said he saw me do this and do that, and then I fell back because I didn't have like the flexion in my ankle yet. So
Sure.
that was my favorite fighter right now is Ilia Topturo.
Elia Tapturo. Why did I put the R? He can't really roll his R. Elia Tapturo.
Yeah, I like it. Well, I'm kind of.
Isn't that what he did?
He's like.
That's sick.
Bro, he's funny. I really hope he does come back because.
I know, dude. Well, he's saying it, man. And dude, he seemed very like into his Catholic faith, man. He's wearing the rosary pre-fight.
Yeah.
You know, dude, do you know what would be sick? Imagine if he came out to the Litany of the Saints.
That would be sick.
Ora de pro nobis. Dude, could you imagine that? Could you imagine that? How cool that would be.
There's a boxer. I'm really big into boxing. I'm actually an amateur boxer.
Oh,
Actually,
that's sick.
I've had fights and stuff. One of my favorite boxers is Vasily Lomachenko. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's Ukrainian, and he came out to like Psalm 135 in the Olympics. It's tough. So,
dude, no, that you know, it could be as a like, dude, just the echo, dude, of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
that'd be sick.
So cool.
What? What's another one like? Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Yeah.
Yes. All of them.
But with the Litany of Saints, you got to do like the Gregorian chant version. You know, the one that I just said. You find it on YouTube, dude, and it's nuts. San Agustinus. You know,
but I feel like we need more Catholic representative in the UFC. Honestly,
totally. Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. But yeah, it's weird. Like Dana's like, he like with everything else, he's like, you can talk about whatever you want on this show, except if you want to talk about Jesus, leave that at home. Don't talk about Jesus here. And it's like crazy how he's like freedom of speech. But when it comes to Jesus and like religion, but not even really religion, just specifically Jesus, he's like, no. And you're like,
I just find it funny. Like Dana, he runs like the biggest like operation fight in the fight business, and he started. Yeah, and but no one likes him. Everyone thinks that the ownership should be or like he needs to step down.
Yeah, everybody.
He's a goofball.
I know.
That's really all I had for you, bro.
Sick.
Thank you again for coming on. I thought it was a great conversation.
Totally.
I'm super happy with how it went. Be willing to do it again as well. So
yeah,
thank you.
Totally, bro. Oliver, yeah, dude. Good meeting you, bro.
Good meeting you.
Have me on, bro. Good times, man.
Yeah.
Sick.